Welcome back to the channel. I hope you enjoy. We discovered an unknown Mayan temple. It holds a dark secret. Miles of dense vegetation, bird calls in the distance, and just about every type of insect swarming us. I remember it quite vividly, actually, the details of it all. Me and my two colleagues, we hiked through the dense rainforests of the Yucatan, our destination nestled deep within the jungle. My colleagues, Sergio, a Mexican man from Oaxaca, was leading the trek. Him and I are historical archaeologists, the both of us having done most of our work in Mesoamerica, which is now how the two of us met in the first place, although he was the leading expert on the subject. Having studied these ancient civilizations for decades, much of the work I've done was under his guidance. Vámonos, mi gente. Shouldn't be much farther. Despite having hiked for several miles through the jungle, Sergio was unfazed, undoubtedly the kind of stamina someone with experience in this line of work would have. It was hot and humid, and there were several hazards in these parts, including venomous snakes and insects, some of which I've been bitten by. The third member of our expedition was Evelyn, an anthropologist from Cambridge who also studied Mesoamerica, specifically an expert in interpreting hieroglyphics and writing. Of course, this skill being essential in this field. She seemed rather eager to get to our destination. The sooner we find this place, the sooner we can publish the material. Calate. We don't know what we will find. Sergio never liked to rush anything. To him, the best way to study something was to do step by step, no matter what the process in doing so was. Traveling was no different. This man knew each Mayan temple from the inside out, just about every inch of ancient stone within each pyramid known in the peninsula, and every artifact found within. Until now, that is. Several months prior, authorities had found somebody, a man, middle-aged, who was severely dehydrated and nearly dead. After being admitted to a hospital and recovering, he had claimed to have been with another person, having become lost in the jungle. He explained that the two of them had come across what they perceived to be ruins, most likely Mayan, and claimed to have found bizarre inscriptions inside. Apparently, for reasons unknown, he wouldn't discuss anything else. Of course, Sergio, who worked at the National Museum of Anthropology in Mexico City, was the first person they contacted. As soon as he was aware of this, he reached out to me to help set up this whole excursion. On account of the inscriptions claimed to have been seen, Evelyn was brought on from Cambridge to provide expertise. That was assuming these were even writings. Most knowledge regarding the ancient Mayans has come from the Yucatan. You see, their society was one of the earliest in the Americas to have used complex astronomy. This is most well documented in Mayan architecture, with temples and pyramids being designed in such a way that the sun, moon, stars, and planets would be visible from the top or through certain windows at important times of the year. If we do happen to find a previously unknown structure, it could potentially contain knowledge about these people, previously unbeknownst to the archaeological community. But that was only in theory. If there even was anything to begin with, for all we know, the account could have simply come from the deranged man, driven crazy from fatigue. As we continued on through the brush, Sergio raised his hand, signaling Evelyn and I to stop. For a good moment, he surveyed the surrounding rainforest before pointing to an opening through the trees. As the three of us headed on through, there it was. Built into the edge of a sinkhole was an old, foliage-covered structure, most likely a temple. No doubt this was it. The place we've been searching for. Well, here we are, I told my colleagues. Seeing how overrun by plant growth the outside was suggested a rather old age, nature having reclaimed the ruins over the centuries. As its base was a large opening, likely the entrance to the inside. However, there was one problem. It was at the bottom of the cenote it was built upon. Cenotes, named from a Yucatec Maya word, are natural pits or sinkholes forming from the collapse of limestone bedrock, exposing groundwater. These pits were believed by the ancient Mayans to be portals to Xibalba, the Mayan underworld. Perhaps there was some significance in building it here? Evelyn gave a puzzled look to Sergio and I. Don't suppose you know how we'll get in? Allie? Sergio turned our attentions to a small ledge which gradually descended into the hole. It was steep, but just right for us to walk along it. With Sergio leading Evelyn and I, we slowly walked down into the cenote. Each step was carefully calculated, as so much as one trip could result in serious injury. Falling wasn't the only hazard. Crocodiles have been known to inhabit the cenotes, and are potentially dangerous. This would require caution close to the water's edge as well. Slowly we descended, getting closer to the water's edge. With our backs against a wall of rock, it was important we remained alert in the opposite direction, in case of crocs. Before long, we were on even ground, or at least the strip of dry land that could be called such at the corner of the pit. Regardless, it was spacious enough for us all to stand on. In front of us was the temple entrance, a dark, looming corridor with nothing past 4 feet in front of us visible. No way any of us could get around inside without some sort of lighting. The three of us strapped on our headlamps before entering. Sergio went a step further, grabbing a dead branch and igniting the tip with his lighter. Not sure we'll really need that. He simply chuckled in response. After several minutes of prepping, we entered without any further delay. When we did, however, I unknowingly stepped on something. I lifted my foot to see a stone of some bizarre sort. This was not just some weirdly weathered rock, no. This was curved, lined with jagged edges. Not in the shape of a dagger or blade, however. It almost looked like a tooth. I didn't have time to analyze some random rock. Nonetheless, I was curious, so I stuck it in my pack and continued on inside. The main hallway seemingly stretched on perpetually. I couldn't see anything past the beams of our lamps, and even then they hardly illuminated anything beyond a couple yards. The corridor was not very wide, hardly enough space for even 2 people to fit. This forced us to traverse the place single file. The overall atmosphere definitely gave off the impression of having been uninhabited for centuries. The air was stale. There was dust on just about every ledge, and the walls had been fairly eroded over time. Soon enough, the light from Sergio's torch revealed glyphic inscriptions. This was where Evelyn came in. It took her about a good minute to translate, though that was on account of several glyphs that were partially eroded. The path to Xibalba. Her translation made me think back to what I had initially guessed, that the building of this temple on top of a sea note had a connection to the underworld, at least in Mayan belief. Of course, this was all just in theory. Evelyn honestly didn't know what to make of it. The end of part 1.
Thanks for taking the time to listen to one of my videos. I'll catch you in the next one. Ciao.